What's up, YouTube family? And we're back at it with another edition of Round One Sports TV. Well, I want to talk to you about some interesting things, and I've noticed a lot of topics going around in the sport of boxing. Why some fighters get treated one way, and what is the views on who and why, what measuring stick and standard should we hold some of these boxers, and why. I'm going to clear up a lot of misconceptions in boxing right now, and this is a video you're really not going to want to miss. If you're a fan of boxing and you like to learn more about boxing, I believe this is a video right here you should truly watch in its entirety. So without further ado, if you like the video, give the video a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's get right into this video. Well, for many years, I've heard people say that Canelo Alvarez was ducking many opponents in the division. In fact, Terrence Crawford is in a situation that he's going to start to embark on in a point in his career where that he's going to have to start making some financial decisions and some decisions that he might get criticized for as well. And this is why. Now, Canelo Alvarez, there's a lot of evidence on him that you can make a strong case that he's ducked a lot of people that he should have fought years ago. Demetrius Andre offered Canelo Alvarez a fight not once, not twice, not even 3 times, not even a remarkable 4 times, but 5 times he offered him a fight. And every time he turned it down. David Benavidez was offered to fight Canelo Alvarez 3 years ago for the most money that Canelo Alvarez would have ever made in a boxing match. In fact, a rumor said that it was somewhere between 50 and 55 million guaranteed. That means they would have gave him $55 million before he even would have got in the ring. That money guarantee is up front. They were gambling at the fact that they were going to get that back on the back end. That's for a later story. But the fight never happened. Time and time again, David Benavidez has been what? How many title eliminator fights have they announced after the fight? This is a title eliminator. The winner will fight Canelo Alvarez. Never happened. You got to beat the #1 contender. He beat Caleb Plant. Never happened. You got to get the interim title. He got it, and he successfully defended the interim champion. It's not happening. It's truly up to Canelo Alvarez. And many fight fans are going to criticize him for these things. But now, have you ever asked yourself, there's a flip side to this quarter. Have you ever asked yourself, how much blood do you have to give to the sport of boxing before you get to a level in your career where you're able to pick fights, not to punch in your brain, so that you can retire with a little bit of money, provide for your family, and still speak at the end of your career? At what point in your career do they say that you have enough fight? Past 40 fights? 50? Canelo has 60. How much more does he have to give and prove time and time again of fighting the #1 guy? He already has all 4 belts. You don't get that for rolling out of bed. Okay? Where do you get in your career where you can just put together some good money fights, get your fans to support you, get a couple good knockouts, right? And live out like a king? Where do you get in your career for you to do that? How much blood do you have to give? What is the benefit in the luxury of being a champion like that if you can't do anything with it? You always got to prove the next man up. And let me tell you something about boxing. There is no Superman. If you think that you're the toughest person on planet Earth, you're sadly mistaken, because here comes that guy. There's always someone for that guy. And we as fighters know that. There's always that guy for some reason. Man, that guy can beat you. And everybody that you beats him. But he beat you. It's sometimes it just works out like that. Styles make fights, and some fights avoid these type of fighters. For just some reason, he has problem with that type style of fighting, and there goes that guy. But where do you have to get? Now, Mr. Terrence Crawford is coming into an interesting situation now, too. I want to see how many fans and how many people criticize and scrutinize him for right now if he does not fight Jaron Boots Ennis immediately after being stripped from the IBF. I believe that Terrence Crawford has given us enough blood to finish out his career and pick and choose, and we should support him. He has done enough for the sport of boxing. Mayweather, at the end of his career, cherry picked his fighters too. At some point, you have to, those are the benefits of being that kind of champion. You're going to get there, and sometimes the fans don't like it. And being the new fans that are coming up, watching the new shiny new toy, the next thing. You want that LeBron to beat Michael Jordan. That's what you want. You got to make out with the old, in with the new. I get it. I get it. I wish we could all stay young. You see? The Japanese superstar Naoya Inoue is arguably the best fighter in the world, either number 1 or number 2 by many. And the way that some fight fans are holding him is that if he doesn't move up in weight and fight Terrence Crawford, then he's not the best fighter in the world. You can't use that analogy, because by the same merit, I can just turn around and say, well, why doesn't Terrence Crawford go fight Deontay Wilder? It's because Deontay Wilder is just too big for Terrence Crawford. Naoya Inoue, Terrence Crawford is just too big for that Japanese fighter. The only way you can measure the measuring stick for these fighters is what they do in their respectable division. That is it. I can't judge you by who Terrence Crawford is fighting. No, it would be unfair. Now, my measuring stick, the way I measure fighters in boxing, is by how they have it. The glamour divisions. The glamour divisions speak for themselves. And if you do not know what that is, the glamour divisions are from 130 to 154. It used to be to like 160. There were some great 160 champions. But from 130 to 154, and then the heavyweight championship of the world are the glamour divisions. The reason why those are the glamour divisions, this is what happens. As you go further up to let's take the heavyweights for example, you're going to get a lot of power. The maximum of a boxer's power is the heavyweight championship of the world, right? But you got the less skill sometimes. You see? As you go down the division, you're going to start getting more skill. And the lower you go down the division, you're going to get the most skill out of boxing. But you're going to take away the power. So you're going to have a lot of skilled fighters, but they're not going to have a lot of power. So what happens is, where it meets at in the middle is 130, 135, 140, 147, 154. Is where skill meets power at a perfect balance in between those weights. And that's where you can get skilled fighters that hit hard, get good knockouts, and you get those oh wow moments. That's why those are the most glamorous divisions in all of boxing, because it's a perfect blend. But when you got a guy that's moving up the lower weight divisions and he has people tuning in over there to see what all the commotion's about, he has to be doing a lot, and he is. He's coming into his 25th fight. Well, it'll be his 26th professional fight coming into the Tapales fight. And it will be his 21st consecutive world title fight in a row. Meaning, he only has 5 fights in his career that he didn't fight for a belt. And he only has 25 fights Going into the Tapales fight will be 26. That's saying a lot. He's already unified all 4 belts at 118, vacated all the belts, and moved up, showing, look, that speaks volumes, right? Because what Devin Haney is doing is holding on to the 135 just in case things go south. If he loses to Regis Prograis by any chance, he's still the 135-pound champion. Naoya Inoue didn't do that. He vacated all 4 belts because he said there is no looking back. And not only am I going to move up to 122 pounds, I don't want a tune-up fight. In fact, I want your best 122-pounder in the world that you have on my very first jump in the new weight division. He wants the best fighter. He took him and brutalized him, knocked him out within 8 rounds. Stephen Kubo Fulton didn't win a single round. He vacated the belts 1 month from the date he won them, not even knowing if he was going to win this fight against Stevie Kubo Fulton, but he knew it. You see, now that's a man that knows who he is. You know, there are a lot of fighters that are held in the sport of boxing to different standards. And you can't measure every boxer on the same level. I can't measure Canelo Alvarez and what he's doing in his career with the Charlo twin. And they're the same age. Canelo has done much more. He started boxing much earlier. If you started boxing later, that's on you. You might be the same age, but you don't got the same miles. And I believe when you get to a certain point in your career, you should be awarded such fights. Yes, you have given us enough. You have proven enough. If you're a Hall of Famer and you're still boxing, you have done enough. Meaning you got a Hall of Fame career already knocked out the way. You've done enough. Is there some corruption? Look, boxing's getting better. And they're starting to close down on a lot of these things. It's sad to see Showtime go. I grew up watching Showtime and HBO fights. You know, there goes another big network. I have a lot of memories watching Showtime fights. It's sad to see them go, but you know, it's a dawn of a new era. You know, so I believe there will be other networks and other people to pick up the pieces because there's money in boxing and there are fight fans that are viewing boxing. And I always want you and I encourage you to stay with me and support fighting. Support it. I always remember to leave the politics sometime out of boxing. Who this guy is eating with, who he's sleeping with, what this guy is doing. Look, that has nothing to do with it. What you do inside that square circle, now that's what you're gonna be held on. That's what you're gonna be held on at the end of your career. So that's what the boxer should focus on. You know, Devin Haney is coming into a strong matchup with Regis Prograis, and many fighters are criticizing Devin Haney for holding on to those belts right now at 135. Shakur Stevenson was supposed to be the next chosen one, right, until he laid an egg. And now everybody's starting to question, wait a minute, maybe we were captivated in the moment. As fans, we have a tendency of doing this. We held them at such a high standard that when we saw that with our own eyes, we were a little embarrassed. But rather than taking some of the responsibility as fans, we all backlash and gave it right on to the kid. We need to take some responsibility for making these athletes almost superhuman-like. You know? So I believe that boxing has really turned around the sport of boxing. In 2023, if you think about all the fights, if we sit here right now, well, why don't we just do that real quick off the top of my head? You know, didn't we get Caleb Plant versus Benavidez? Wasn't that an amazing one of the amazing fights, right? Didn't we get Tank Davis twice against Garcia? Both Garcias, Hector Garcia and Ryan Garcia, right? Didn't we get Devin Haney versus Lomachenko? Didn't we get we got Teofimo Lopez against Josh Taylor? Didn't we get Anthony Joshua twice? Didn't we get the Charlo twins, not one but both? Didn't we get Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford and the Japanese superstar twice? Come on. This year has been outrageous. And I believe it's only going to get better. With all of the new talent, we got some Puerto Rican fighters right now making some big head waves. There are American fighters right there. Those Puerto Rican guys are American fighters. Zion, okay? We just had an American champion defend his title just on Saturday night, okay? So, Boo Boo Schuster, oh my goodness. I've been right now paying close attention to Madison. Man, that kid looks pretty good. He's coming along right. They're bringing him along right. I believe the competition they're putting in front of him, everything. Dulo Madison, he's just, I think he's a little bit more polished than the average fighter that comes out. I expect a lot from him, but here we go as fight fans again. I'm saying I expect a lot. No, Adula, do yourself a favor. Come along the right way and never be scared to take a risk. To shoot for the stars. Sometimes it's good to take risk early in your careers, like Devin Haney showed the rest of the division. He beat Tank Davis to those belts. He beat most of the fighters, like the Ryan Garcia, the Shakur Stevensons. He beat those guys to the belts. And once he got in, he kept his foot on the pedal. So there are some fighters in boxing that are held to different standards and different measures. And there are some situations that you would assume that you see this going on in this situation, that should apply to every other situation in the sport of boxing. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way because this is a sport that is a single man sport. It's not like a team sport. So there's too many single individuals doing too many single shit. And they're in particular in different points in their careers. So they can't be all held at the same standard. You see? And sometimes with boxing and the politics, man, Terrence Crawford just won that IBF title. Why did they strip him of that belt? Well, if the IBF did the math, in which I'm sure they did, they saw they weren't going to make another red cent with Terrence Crawford, and that was the truth. From the moment he won that belt at Errol Spence Jr., the IBF would no longer make another dollar off Terrence Crawford. He's not going to defend the 147-pound championships. His next fight is at 154. And from here to training for that 154, we're talking about into the next year. After that fight is an additional almost coming around the corner on the following year. And then he's going to try to fight the Jermell Charlo, one of them, at 154 to go for those belts. He is no longer going to defend or do anything with those 147-pound championship belts. And the IBF saw that. And that was a business move. Has there been other situations and cases and points where, I'm pretty sure there has. And if I really sit here and think about it, I can think of some nasty situations. But I no longer want to bring up that. And I don't want to remind you of hate. I want to remind you of the greatest fighters and the greatest matches we've been having. I think that Jermell Charlo the other night, Jamal Charlo, looked pretty good against Jose Benavidez. And many boxing fans criticized him for not knocking him out. But if I was Jermell Charlo's coach, I would tell him, do not knock out Jose Benavidez. You've been around, you've been gone for 2.5 years. I want to see if you can make 10 rounds. You need to get some work in. What good is it if you've been away for 2.5 years and you go and knock this guy out in the second round and you get absolutely no work in? As a coach, you got to be able to show me that I can put you in for 12 rounds and to defend your title. I need an eye test of where you're at. I know you can knock this guy out. I don't want you to. And some fight fans are going to come back and criticize him and say, oh, why couldn't you knock out a guy that got shot in the leg that was stationary? Maybe that wasn't his plan. Maybe his coach forced him to go 10 rounds. I would have. If I was his coach, do not knock that guy out. You need to prove to me you can go at least 10. I need to see where you're at so I know where to work at you, how far along to bring you, how far back are you? And he looked pretty good. His punches look sharp. Of course, there are things that he needs to work on, but another measuring stick, another standard. Why didn't they strip him over 2.5 years of inactivity? Why? There's no one at 160 that has a bigger name than him. Let him get his shit together if he comes back. We already have our superstar. That's business. That's a no-brainer. Who are you going to strip that belt to and give it to who? To who? He's had mandatories in that division and nobody's put in for the mandatory. They could have forced the issue. They just didn't do it for whatever reason. So, look, before you want to say I'm done with boxing, I'm done with all this, and this thing happened to this guy, that's not going to happen to every boxer. And every boxer's situation is different. Unfortunately, we can't hold everybody to the same standards some boxers are at. Period. And then if we were going to do that, there would be a lot of misconceptions that you would think were obviouses. For instance, right? You would think that the Naoya Inoue Japanese superstar is not more popular than Terence Crawford. When in fact, that couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is, Terence Crawford is well known in the United States of America, and the Japanese guy is not that known in America. But I'll tell you what the difference is. The Japanese guy in his city where he was born at, he can shut down any major city if he steps outside. He's got that Beatle Michael Jackson notoriety going there. Terence Crawford can't shut down New York City. Terence Crawford could probably go to Omaha, right, and go to a mall or something and get 200 or 300, 400 people. Maybe sometimes a little more, whatever, I'm pretty sure he can do that. And when he has fights scheduled that the hype is coming, I'm pretty sure he can get some gatherings. But have you ever seen the type of gatherings for the Japanese superstar over there in Japan? He doesn't shut down just his hometown. You can put him anywhere in Japan. He's going to shut it down. He's got that. They're revering him sort of like Manny Pacquiao. Do you remember when Manny Pacquiao was at the hype of his thing in the Philippines where people were crying and they were just reaching out trying to touch him? That's what kind of shit the Japanese superstar is over there in Japan. It's cool that he wants to come out to the U.S. and be a global superstar, okay? But if we're going to look at it, objectively, right? He's from Japan. Terence Crawford is from United States. In order to be compared equal, you got to do what you got to do in that level of success where you're from. And Terence Crawford doesn't got that kind of buzz like the Japanese does over there. For God's sake, do you know who they're comparing him to? To what legend? They're over there because it's from over there. He's going up against the legend of Bruce Lee from the Chinese. Because the Chinese and the Japanese have always been in competition, right? So the legend of Bruce Lee is big, bro. That's a big thing. That's like or Ali, right? Okay. So he's like in some like big debate thing like that, bro. So that's what kind of measuring stick this that Japanese dude's on. Just in case you don't know the level of his success. There are villages and people that go to Japan that bring they just thousands and thousands of people. He's got like Michael Jackson Beatles freaking hype. You know, there's none of our fighters, too many fighters that have ever done that over here. You know, so he is big. He's just not big in the United States big. You know, but he's getting there, and that's why I mean a lot of fighters can't be measured on the same measuring stick. You know, they're gonna be certain points in a fighter's career where, they're gonna want to see the old king fight the new upcoming star, and sometimes the old king is like, dog, I've already fought young king after young king after young king. I just don't want to fight the next new shiny thing, because each of them did that. Because according to everybody in the world, Errol Spence Jr. was the one that was going to beat Terrence Crawford. He kept fighting new king after new king after new king. And every time he beats them and dethrones them, it's just another guy. It's just another guy, and it's always going to be that way. Listen, I just wanted to break down some measuring standards just for you to get, the kind of like a different point of view. Like, okay, yeah, I can't measure this guy by this, and I couldn't put him by this. I could only judge them by what they do in their respectable career. And if I truly want to find out what each of them did, if you want, I'll break it down for you. Again, I'll do it again. I've done videos about this, but I'll do it again. Because it is truly remarkable what some of these athletes and some of these fighters have accomplished, and the ones that are upcoming right now, and the new talent that we have. I can't wait. I can't wait. So please, if you like the video, give the video a like. Please subscribe to the channel. And like always, I'm on to the next one. Peace.